Okay, yes, I'm wearing the Speak Now tour shirt from 2011. That was my sister's and is arguably too small for me. But I'm committed to the Speak Now vibes. Hello friends, my name is Lisa, and with the impending arrival of Speak Now Taylor's version, I thought it'd be fun to read some books that give the same Speak Now vibes. I have kind of been collecting some YouTube videos with recommendations, some articles, some Instagram posts that kind of are giving recommendations based off of your favorite Taylor Swift era, or just like Speak Now recommendations, books to read if you like certain songs or just the album itself. And I thought it'd be fun to kind of curate a TBR from those things and pick a few books to read and see if they do give Speak Now vibes. Mainly I thought it would just be a fun bookish way for me to prepare for Speak Now Taylor's version. So I do have some saved posts onto Instagram that I think different accounts were posting when the Eras Tour got announced. So let me go to my saved posts, and they were basically book recommendations for each era. So let's take a peek. So this first one is what you should read next based on your favorite Taylor Swift era. So I'm gonna ignore everything else for now. I do think I want to do this video with other eras and other albums, but with Speak Now Taylor's version coming out, it felt like the right time to do the Speak Now one. So, okay, this says To All the Boys I Loved Before as a Speak Now recommendation, which definitely is a great recommendation, but I've already read it. So Aardvark Book Club, which I think is a book subscription box, did one as well. So let's see what they recommended for Speak Now. None of this would have happened if Prince were alive, by Carolyn Prusa? I've never heard of that, I don't think. So let me screenshot that and let me see. We're gonna just go through, find the recommendations, and then I will come back and make a definitive TBR. So this one is books to read for each era of Taylor Swift. So Speak Now, A Magic Steeped in Poison and Cemetery Boys. I've read Cemetery Boys and loved it. A Magic Steeped in Poison, though, I have not read. And then I think this might be the last Instagram post that I have. It says what to read based on your favorite Taylor Swift era. Okay, Speak Now has a few. Hello Beautiful, Happily, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and Malice. Okay, so Encyclopedia of Fairies I think is probably going to be on the TBR because I'm already planning on reading that soon anyways, so that seems like a good thing to pick up. I've heard of Malice, I don't know if I've heard of the other two books, so I'm going to keep my eye on those. Okay, so now I'm gonna look through some of the articles that I found. I don't think I looked through any of these. For Speak Now Enchanted, Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Shirley. I don't know. Oh, there's the picture. I have heard of this. I think this is like a new release. It definitely is intriguing to me simply for the corgi on the cover. Another article, this says for Speak Now, The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. I don't know if I'm saying that correct, but just like the fact that it's a wedding, Speak Now, I get the vibes. I get this recommendation, so perhaps we'll read this one. I don't know. Okay, oh, this one has a few different recommendations for each album. So, okay, for Speak Now, we have The Opposite of Always, The Sun Is Also a Star, and Girls of Paper and Fire. So I have read The Sun Is Also a Star, but I haven't read The Opposite of Always and Girls of Paper and Fire, and I'm definitely interested in reading The Opposite of Always. Another article. Let's see. Oh my god, Persuasion. Am I about to read a classic for this video? I have Persuasion. It's on my shelf and I look at it all the time. I just have to be in the mood to read a classic, you know? This world doesn't feel like the 21st century world of sliding into DMs. It feels more Regency era. You know, I kind of get that vibe. I do feel like Speak Now to me is very like whimsical and fairy tale vibe, so I definitely get that. Like, that makes a lot of sense. You know, that is like such a convincing take, but like, do I want to read Persuasion by Jane Austen? Unsure. I mean, I do, but do I want to read it right now? That's more the question. I also did find a couple of YouTube videos to watch as well. One is from Gabby Reads, who does a lot of Taylor Swift themed videos, so I knew she would have one for Speak Now, and it's a book for every song on Speak Now by Taylor Swift. So I think we need to watch through that.
The very first song on this album is Mine, and I think a book that fits that song really well is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover.
I'm not reading Colleen Hoover. I'm putting my foot down on that. I'm sorry. I will not be reading that. Sorry, Gabby. Great recommendation, I'm sure, but I'm not reading Colleen Hoover.
The second song on this album is Sparks Fly, and the book that I think fits perfectly with this song is The Roommate.
The Roommate. I don't know if I feel like that cover looks familiar, but I don't think I really know what it's about. Everything's gonna depend on what I have access to through my libraries if I own it already, so that is gonna play a role, but I definitely have heard of that.
The next song is Back to December, and the book that I think fits perfectly with this song is After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid.
Oh, I have read some Taylor Jenkins Reid before, but I've only read like from Evelyn Hugo onward. I haven't gone back and read any of her backlisted titles, so that would be maybe interesting.
The next song is Speak Now, and a book that I feel like fits the song pretty well is Little Women.
Already read that. Great recommendation.
The next song is Dear John, and I think a book that really fits the song is My Dark Vanessa.
I don't know if that's really the vibe I'm going for. I love how it's just like, Speak Now is so whimsical and fairy tale-esque, and then My Dark Vanessa. A heavy topic, so I don't know.
Alright, the next song on the album is Mean, and I feel like a book that fits the song pretty well is Felix Ever After.
I've already read that.
The next song on this album is The Story of Us, and the book that I think fits the song perfectly is The Bromance Book Club.
The Bromance Book Club. Interesting. Also haven't read that, but intrigued by it for sure.
The next song on this album is Never Grow Up, but the book that I think fits the song perfectly is The Dream Daughter.
The Dream Daughter. I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Alright, the next song is gonna be Enchanted. Fits the song perfectly is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
I just said I have read this. Great recommendation.
Alright, the next song is Better Than Revenge. Fits the song really well is Verity.
I'm not reading Colleen Hoover.
The next song is Innocent. Fits the song really well is Anxious People by...
Already read it.
The next song on the album is Haunted. Fits the song pretty damn perfectly is You.
You by Carolyn Kepnes. I have never read this. I watched the first season of the show and then never continued on with it because that's just what I do.
The next song is Last Kiss, which for this song, I'm going to choose A Little Life by...
Oh, absolutely not. I'm not reading that. I'm sorry. But no, I'm not putting myself through that.
The next song on the album is Long Live. The book that fits the song really well is Daisy Jones and the Six.
Ah, great recommendation. I already read it.
Alright, and then the last song that I'm doing, I know that ours. For that song, I'm choosing Red, White, Yellow, Blue by Kate.
That's a great recommendation for the song, and I've already read it. Okay, I definitely loved so many of those recommendations. I've also, like, the ones I've read I've loved, and the ones I haven't read, some of them I don't really want to read, but a lot of them I would be interested in reading, so I definitely think we found some good recommendations there. I also have another video from Megs Reads Books, and this is recommending you books based off of your favorite Taylor Swift album. So I'm just gonna skip ahead to the Speak Now section.
Fairy tale, like, pretty dresses, badass girls doing badass shit in pretty dresses. That's what I feel like Speak Now is, and that's what these books are. And the first is Cinderella's Dead by Caleb Bayron.
I own this book. Ooh, that's a good recommendation. I definitely, like, I agree with the, like, enchanted fairy tale vibes. That's what I was saying. So I feel like I'm really gonna like these recommendations if I haven't read it yet. But I haven't read this. I own it. Maybe?
It is not on my shelves anymore, but it is Splintered by A.G. Howard.
Oh, Splinter. Oh, okay. I think, hold on. I'm gonna watch what she says. I think, is that an Alice in Wonderland retelling? Oh, Welcome to the Real Wonderland. It says right on the top of the book. So it's an Alice in Wonderland retelling. Interesting.
I mean, the next one, honestly, I know so many people must have read it, but if you haven't read it, Speak Now is my favorite.
The Selection by Kira Cass. I have read it. I didn't like it, but I get the Speak Now comparison 100%.
This is The Enchanted Sonata by Heather Dixon Warwick.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's a Nutcracker retelling. The Enchanted Sonata is the other one that she said. I love the story of the Nutcracker. I love the ballet. I love the Barbie movie. The Barbie movie is what, like, started my obsession with the Nutcracker. I just love that story for some reason. I feel like reading the Nutcracker or Nutcracker retelling in June and July, perhaps not the vibe, but it could be because I do love Christmas.
The last one is a completely different vibe, but it's You Are the Everything by Karen Rivers, which I've never heard anyone talk about this.
I don't think I've ever heard of that. So true in hearing that, like, no one's ever talked about it. You Are the Everything by Karen Rivers. Huh. Interesting. Okay, great recommendations. I also just realized I'm not subscribed to her, so we're gonna fix that right now. I was gonna do, like, more. I was gonna look for more, like, articles or YouTube videos if I felt like I needed to, but I feel like I just got a lot of really good recommendations. So I'm gonna go through, kind of see what I have access to, what speaks to me the most, and speaks. Sorry, but just like what ones I'm the most interested in reading. I'm gonna go through and come back with the official TBR for this video. Okay, I think I've made my choices. I think I know what I'm gonna read for this video. So I ended up picking out 3 books to read for this video, so I'm really excited to see how they compare to the Speak Now era or the songs or anything like that. So the first one I'm going to read is the Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I also think I'm going to pick up After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I was just just saying I want to read some of her backlisted titles, so it feels like that seems like the right choice. And then the third and final book that I plan to read for this video is Cinderella is Dead by Kailyn Barron. I owned it. It seemed like the right thing to choose. Plus, I feel like the cover itself, I know it's very reflective, but this just gives me Speak Now vibes as a whole. I think the purple, the dress, it just gives me Speak Now vibes. Plus, it is a fairy tale Cinderella retelling, so that also just gives me Speak Now vibes. So yeah, those are the 3 books that I am planning to read for this video. So I'm excited to get into all 3 of these books, and I will check in with you once I've started the first book and have some initial thoughts. Okay, first of all, I'm sorry if you can hear my laptop. I'm exporting a video and it's kind of sounding like it's about to take off. It's starting to get quieter, but if you can hear that, I apologize. But I am 28% of the way through Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, so I wanted to give some initial thoughts. So in this book, you're following Emily Wilde, who is creating an encyclopedia about fairies. Who would have thought? During her research, she does a lot of like field work. So she goes to different places, to different villages to kind of get research and to observe the fairies in their like natural environments and get information that way. So this book, she's setting off on this journey that is going to be, I think, a handful of months long. I'm not really sure if we've been given a specific timeline of how long this is going to really happen. I think like a few months. And she goes to this small village to observe the hidden ones or the fairies in this particular area in the world. And she gets there and she is very much like, she just wants to do her work. She just wants to do her research. She doesn't really want to make friends with the people in the village. She has a hard time like connecting with them. But after like a few days of her being there, her academic rival, Wendell, which I love that name. I don't understand how you could have a rival with someone with the name Wendell. Like that's just too cute. But Wendell is like her academic rival. He also does a lot of research on fairies and he kind of shows up unannounced and is like, hey, I'm going to help you with your research. He's like, are you going to help me or are you going to take credit for it? So the two of them are trying to navigate this arrangement of them both doing this research. And also Emily is very suspicious of Wendell, thinks he has his own secrets and things that he's hiding. So far, well, first of all, something I did not know about this book is that it's a like historical fiction, historical fantasy. It's not current day. I thought for some reason that this book was a current day book. Like I thought it was taking place in the modern times, which I don't know why I thought that. I think whenever I read the description, it just gave me the vibe that it was set in the current day. And I think it also like, it reminded me a lot of the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I don't know why I compared the two in my mind. So for some reason, like because the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches was set in the more modern day, I thought this one was too. It is not, which isn't a good or bad thing. I think I might have preferred it to be in the historical setting, so I'm not minding it. I just wasn't expecting that. And also, there are footnotes in this book, which I'm not sure how I'm feeling about that. I feel like so far with the footnotes that we've gotten, it hasn't been a lot, so that's good. But the ones that we've gotten, it's been like more information about certain types of fairies, certain kinds of fairies, and just like information about them. Or it's like citing specific like textbooks about fairies. So it's kind of cool to know that this is like a very like expansive thing that has a lot of research and that there's like fictional textbooks on these things. Or I guess there's probably real textbooks on fairies, but you know, it's interesting to have that world building, I suppose, and the context to a lot of the fairies and like information about them. But I do feel like so far it's felt a little unnecessary. Like I feel like we don't really need this information. And like a lot of the stuff about the actual fairies, like the certain types of fairies and just like what that means. Like I feel like you can explain that within the text. You don't need footnotes to do that. So not the biggest fan of the footnotes. It feels a little unnecessary at this point. But who knows, as we continue, they might become more relevant and I might be happy to have them. But right now, I'm not the biggest fan and I can't in my brain fathom the idea of not reading them. So I keep reading them, but I also am just not enjoying them. So I feel like I should skip them. I don't know. It's a whole thing in my brain. But as for like enjoyment wise with this book so far, I'm feeling like kind of neutral. The writing itself is very like stream of consciousness, which is what me and my friend Therese were talking about. We're buddy reading this book and that's what she mentioned. And it's so true. There are a lot of like lengthy paragraphs of Emily just having this like inner monologue and explaining what she's doing. And it's just like, it's not bad. Like the writing itself isn't bad. I just feel like I am someone that wants maybe a little bit more dialogue, but I understand why that was happening because for a portion of the book so far, Emily was by herself and it was just like her with her dog. So I understand like there isn't going to be a whole lot of dialogue. But now that I'm at a point where Wendell has shown up and they have a very interesting dynamic because he's very different from her. He's very like sociable and outgoing and very charming, and she is not like that at all. But the fact that they're so different is kind of a fun dynamic to read, and I know that there's, I think, going to be a little bit of a romance between them. So I am excited to continue on and see that now that Wendell is here in the book, he's present. I'm a little bit more interested. There's a little bit more dialogue, a little bit more interaction with other characters happening. So I feel like I'm going to enjoy it more now that there's like other characters for Emily to be interacting with. But yeah, the book itself, I'm feeling very neutral. It's not bad, but I'm not loving it, which is kind of a shame because this was like a 5-star prediction for me. So I hope that I enjoy it by the end, but right now I'm just kind of feeling like middle of the road. Hey, I can see. Okay, so it actually hasn't been that long since my last update on Emily Wilds. I'm now like, I think I'm like 40% of the way through. So I haven't read a ton more since my last update, but I do have some things to share. So something that I mentioned in my last update was the footnotes. And I will say there's honestly not a ton of footnotes in this book. There were like a handful in the first like few chapters, and then they really just kind of stopped, and there's only really been one since the first few chapters. So it definitely isn't annoying enough where it's ruining my experience. And I think at this point I understand why they're there, because this is supposed to be like we're reading Emily Wilds' journal. So, you know, if she is explaining this type of fairy, obviously excuse how I look right now. But if she's explaining this type of fairy, like she knows what that is. Like she doesn't need to explain it for herself in her own journal. So having a little footnote to explain exactly what those fairies are for the reader of her journal and for us, it makes more sense. Because like if I was journaling about something that I am knowledgeable about while we're on the theme of Taylor Swift and Speak Now, let's say I was referencing Speak Now in my journal, I wouldn't be like, Speak Now, and this is Taylor Swift's third album that she's re-recording, and it's being released July 7th and was originally released in 2010. Like, I know that. Like, I can just say Speak Now and know what I'm talking about. So I understand why the footnotes are there and why like things aren't necessarily being explained just in the text, but I'm still just not like loving it. I feel like just like the setup of it being written in this journal kind of way is throwing me off, because she's even saying in the text, like, I normally try to keep these journals purely like professional and academic, but for some reason I'm starting to write more personal things in this journal. And so that's why it's weird for me that like she'll be very professional, be going on about all of these things that she knows about fairies, there will be footnotes, and then she'll be talking about Wendell and all of these more personal things that they're doing and personal feelings, and then there will be a footnote, and it's just like, what is the vibe of this book? I can't figure it out. The writing itself is fine. I'm just not a big fan, I think, of like the structure and like the execution of this like journal kind of vibe. And because it's like a journal, it kind of allows there to be like info dumps on certain stories about fairies or like world building things. And it's like, but because it's a journal, she's just talking about these stories that she's heard. So it kind of like allows there to be info dumps. And I'm just not loving that either, because I just don't feel like I care. I don't know. I feel like I went into this with very different expectations of what this book was going to be. I thought this was going to be like a cozy little fantasy. We were going to have, you know, mostly these characters researching fairies, being in a cute little village in a cute little cottage, and it was going to be more so focused on like the romance, but there's actually been a lot of focus on the fairies and like the research and the history of them and what they're trying to do, and I'm like, that's fun to an extent, but it's just not what I was expecting or wanting, I think. And for some reason I'm just feeling like these characters are kind of at like arm's length. I do like her dynamic with Wendell, who's like the researcher who's come to help her, and I think there's going to be a little bit of a relationship between them, I hope. This is the start of a series, and I'm like, if we don't even get a single crumb of their relationship in this book, I'm going to be upset. But yeah, I like her dynamic with Wendell, especially because Wendell, which that name just kind of makes me giggle, like it's such a precious name. But Wendell is like a snarky, charming blonde, and like clearly has a history, maybe has some trauma, and I'm like, wow, I have a history of liking those types of characters, but for some reason I just don't feel super connected. Like I said, I feel like all these characters feel like they're at arm's length. Like I don't feel like I know them well. I don't feel super connected to them, which is so weird because you're literally reading Emily's journal, so you would think that it would be feeling more personal and it would be more intimate, especially when it comes to Emily, but I just don't feel that way. So yeah, I don't know what it is about this writing style that just like is not working for me. This kind of journaling overlapping stream of consciousness, but like should feel more personal than it does. I don't know, something about it just isn't working for me. Honestly, I've been contemplating DNFing it, which I really don't want to do because this was a 5-star prediction and I'm reading it for this vlog. And I'm really bad at DNFing anyway, and especially when it comes to things I'm reading for themed vlogs. Like, I feel like I have to finish them, but yeah, I don't know. I'm getting the DNF feelings, which is kind of wild. Wild. So yeah, I don't know. It's not bad, and I could see why people would really enjoy this. I think I'm just not meshing with the writing, and that's kind of influencing my enjoyment of everything else. And it's also not cozy. Like, this gets like recommended as a cozy fantasy. Where's the cozy vibes? I'm not getting the cozy feelings. So yeah, I think I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna see, you know, how it continues on because I'm almost halfway and I do want to keep reading for the sake of this video. So I don't think I'm going to DNF yet, but I may. And as far as it goes, like comparing it to Speak Now, I feel like Speak Now was a very emotional album, whether that's good, happy, coming of age emotions or just like sad, heartbreaking moments as well. But there's a lot of feelings behind the Speak Now album, as there are with most of her albums. But I feel like this one, like because of the age she was and like the experiences she was having at the time, like it's a very emotional album, kind of all over the place. And this book is making me feel nothing. So for that reason, it's not giving me Speak Now vibes. Okay, so my Taylor Swift Eras Tour sweatshirt merch came in today, and it's too hot to be wearing this, but I'm wearing it for this clip because I'm excited about it, and this feels like the right time to wear it. I think, have I been wearing Taylor merch this whole vlog so far? Is this something that I'm now going to have to continue to do every update for this vlog? Yep, definitely. Anyway, I'm here to update on Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies because I finished that earlier today, and I've kind of just been collecting my thoughts. So I think the last time I updated you all, I was around the 40% mark, and around the 45% mark is where things in this book actually started to get interesting. Almost the first half of this book was just really boring. It was a lot of establishing the characters, establishing different dynamics, establishing where they were, what they were doing, and it was just boring, which is why I think I was contemplating DNFing the book. I was just bored. But then about the halfway point is when we got a bit of an interesting piece of information, and I was like, oh, maybe this is where the rest of the book is gonna go. Not quite. So there were definitely more things happening in the second half of the book. I just feel like this book made a lot of choices and it went in a lot of ways that I wasn't anticipating, which may sound like a good thing, but I don't think it was for me personally. Even though there were things happening, they felt, I don't know how to explain it. It was like the author had certain scenes and certain things that she wanted to happen when she was like outlining this project or like thinking about writing this book, but didn't know how to like make them flow. So it just felt like, oh, this character is doing this thing, this bad thing has happened, we have to solve it, we have to figure out what to do, something bad happens, but then okay, it's okay, and we're going back to the cottage. And then, oh, okay, now there's another problem, we need to go and do that and solve that problem. Oh, something goes wrong. Okay, now we're okay. Let's go back to the cottage. It was just like very like structured, like this is happening and now it's not. And now this thing is happening and now it's not. And it didn't flow really well, which made this book feel like it wasn't really building to anything. It just kind of felt like small little events happening and conflicts happening. So then you get to like the third act of this book and like the final conflict, which should feel like a bigger deal and like it's, you know, this is the thing that we've been building up to this whole book, but it just kind of felt like every other conflict that was happening in this book. So the stakes felt the same, and it just, I don't know, it just, this book didn't build up to anything. It kind of just like, it got to the second half, things started happening, and then it all stayed the same level. And I think this kind of goes back to the writing not being my favorite and me not really vibing with the whole like journal entry type of thing with this writing. I feel like that took away the stakes of a lot of the situations, because obviously if it's a journal, you're writing in a journal about something that's already happened. So they'd be in these situations that feel really stressful and really high stakes and oh no, they're in danger. But then you realize, well, they're writing in this journal about what has happened. So clearly they get out of it and everything's fine. And I think this book gets categorized as like a cozy fantasy, which, side note, didn't really feel that cozy. There were moments where it did, like whenever they would be in the cottage, Emily and Wendell, like spending time together, or like people from the village would come to their cottage and spend time with them. Those moments felt cozy, but pretty much everything else didn't really feel that cozy. But as I was saying, this does get categorized as a cozy fantasy. So I understand there being the lower stakes and maybe the things that are happening, like you're supposed to know that it's going to be okay in the end. And I don't mind that. I read a lot of romance, and that's why I like the romance genre, because you know it's going to be okay in the end. I just feel like this book, it didn't feel like a cozy fantasy, and it felt like these moments, they were high stakes and they should have been a lot more stressful than they were. But then I remember, oh, they're writing it as a journal entry, so clearly they get out of it and it's fine. And then it just made me not feel anything for what was happening. Like, these characters would be in these really not great situations, and it's like, instead of wondering, oh, how are they going to get out of this, it's like, well, I know that they do. So it just made me not care. And I just feel like that kind of influenced my like investment in the characters as well. I liked Emily and I liked Wendell, and I think they had a fun dynamic of like, it was kind of grumpy sunshine a little bit. It was fun to read about, but I just wasn't super invested in their characters because I never felt like there was any reason for me to be invested in them. I don't know. And like, I know I was saying in my last update that I wanted there to be a crumb of something with the romance because I thought that that could be fun. I was thinking, you know, this is the start of a series, and at this point, like up until almost a halfway point, the romance really wasn't happening. So I was like, okay, this is going to be like a nice slow burn type of moment, but I want at least something. I want a crumb. I want to make this interesting. But I feel like the romance also was paced not well. Like, it went from 0 to 100 real quick. I do think by the end of the book, where the characters end up with this relationship or not that they have, I think it makes sense because this is the start of a series. You want people to come back and see like, oh, like what's going to happen in the next book? Are they going to get together? Are things going to progress forward? So I understand it ending in that way, and I actually didn't mind the way that the romance ended, but like kind of before that, it went from 0 to 100. Like, it just, I don't know. I just didn't really like the pacing of the romance either. I said I wanted a crumb, but not quite like that. And something that I also want to talk about when talking about these books is obviously the whole point is that I'm reading these books because they've been compared to Speak Now or recommended to Speak Now fans. So I want to discuss like if I thought this was a good recommendation for Speak Now fans. At first I was going to say no. I would say for most of the book, I wasn't really getting super strong Speak Now vibes. Yes, there is this like cozy-ish element to it. There's a bit of a romance. They're researching fairies, so that's like a magical, fantastical, almost whimsical aspect of it. So I was like, okay, like I get it a little bit, but it wasn't like screaming Speak Now. I wasn't necessarily understanding why this book was recommended for Speak Now fans, but I do feel like the third act of this book and the kind of final conflict within this book gave stronger Speak Now vibes. And I don't know how much I can say without getting into spoilers. Like, I feel like I can't really explain why that's the case, but there's definitely like some strong Speak Now vibes. And I don't even know if I can say what song off of Speak Now it was giving me. So I wasn't really understanding it for a big majority of the book, but I do feel like once I got to the end, I was like, okay, I see it. I understand why this was recommended to Speak Now fans. So I think throughout this vlog, what I'm going to do for each book is I'm going to give it a star rating, 1 through 5, as I always do with every book that I read, based off of my opinions and my enjoyment and all of that. But I'm also going to give it a 5 purple heart rating. So I'm going to have a scale of 1 through 5 purple hearts, and that's going to be how similar or if I think the recommendation for Speak Now fans makes sense. So 1 purple heart will be not super similar. I don't understand at all why this was recommended for Speak Now fans or why it was compared to Speak Now, versus 5 purple hearts will be like, oh, this is like the book version of Speak Now. It's so similar. I get the vibes. I get the recommendation. So as for my star rating for this book, I think I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. It was honestly feeling like a 2, if that, in the first half. So we kind of, you know, I gave it an extra half star for the second half being a little bit more interesting. There definitely was like some cute moments with the romance and some funny moments. There definitely were a couple moments where I let out a little like kind of quick laugh, you know? And I definitely don't think that this is a bad book, and there's definitely an audience for this book. You could argue that that's the case for every book, but this is one that I understand like 100% why people would enjoy this. I just don't think that it was for me. The writing style really just didn't work for me, and I didn't feel super connected with the characters or what was going on. As for my Speak Now purple heart rating, I think I'm gonna give it like 3 purple hearts. I definitely feel like I was saying, wasn't super strong Speak Now vibes in the first like half, maybe even more, but I do understand by the end of the book why it was recommended. I definitely think there are some scenes and some moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, I get it now. So those are my thoughts on Emily Wilds. Again, don't think it's a bad book, just not for me. Alright, I put this Taylor shirt on just for this update. This is what I wore to my Taylor concert and it's making me emo looking at it. But I have started After I Do, and I have to think about that title every time I think about it. I want to say Almost I Do, and I think that's just the Taylor Swift brain rot coming in because I'm thinking about I Almost Do. But this is After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. In this book, you're following Lauren and Ryan, who fell in love when they were in college. That's when they met. They've been together for quite a while. They eventually, move out together and they get engaged and they get married. And where we're at right now, I think it's quite a few years into their relationship, but they've come to this realization that they don't feel like they're in love with each other anymore. They're fighting a lot and they're just basically coexisting with one another. So they end up having this really big fight that causes them to figure out okay, we need to do something. And so the kind of plan, the agreement that they come up with is that they are going to separate themselves from each other for a year. They're not divorcing. There's no official anything that's happening. They're just taking a year away from each other and are going to kind of explore themselves and figure out what they want to do. And if, at the end of this year, they realize okay, this is good, we should separate, or maybe we should come back together. That's kind of their plan. Where I'm at in the book, I think I'm 24% of the way through, so about a quarter of the way. They've just kind of made that agreement and they've just separated. So once I got into it and realized that we were following this kind of story, I was like, oh no, this is kind of a second chance romance kind of thing, which is not my favorite romance trope by any means. I really don't like it. I typically it does not work for me, but I do feel like this is a very unique take on the second chance romance. They're already married when they start the book, and we do get some insight to their relationship. We get some flashbacks kind of in the first couple of chapters to see their relationship progress, and we see them falling in love, and also how we can see them kind of starting to fall out of love as well. But it's definitely a unique take on the second chance romance trope. So I'm skeptical, but also it is intriguing. I'm interested to see where it goes. And also it's Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I feel like she's never really disappointed me before. Everything that I've read from her has been 4 or 5 stars. So I'm thinking I'm going to like this, but we'll just see. To be honest, so far it's just made me feel sad. It's sad to witness these people fight all the time and not be in love with each other. It's not the most happy of beginnings. But yeah, we're just gonna have to see what happens. I don't really have strong feelings about the book yet. I don't really feel strongly one way or the other, but I think where I'm at right now, they've just made this agreement to separate, and they've actually separated at this point. I don't think she's gonna be seeing him anymore for the next year. So I think the plot is gonna kind of pick up going forward. So I'm interested to see where it goes. But right now I don't really feel a whole lot of anything, but I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes and if this joins the other Taylor Jenkins Reid 4 and 5 star books. Okay, my throat is bothering me. I don't know if I'm getting sick. I don't know if it's allergies. I don't know what's going on. But we're gonna make this quick because I don't want to speak. Also, I realized that I've been doing this Taylor Swift shirt thing in every update, and I'm pretty sure my very first update for this vlog with Emily Wilds, I wasn't wearing Taylor merch. So I have been keeping this up for no reason. I made it all up in my head, but now I've started it, I'm gonna keep it going. But I did finish reading After I Do, and I still want to say Almost I Do. I don't know if that's ever going to stop, but I finished After I Do, and I actually did like this. I really wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it because this is different than what I have read from Taylor Jenkins Reid before. This is more of one of her romance-focused books, so I wasn't really sure if I was gonna like it, but I do like the romance genre, so I thought I would enjoy it, and I did. But what's funny is I don't like this really as a romance. Yes, this book really focuses on this couple and the fact that they are falling out of love and they're taking this year apart from one another to see if they can figure out a future together. But that's the thing, is most of this book, they're not together, they're not spending it together. Ryan, the husband, he basically is at the beginning of this book and at the end, and that's it. And I mean, you do see certain snippets of things that he's saying kind of and thinking throughout this process. I don't want to say too much, but you do see a little bit of it throughout the book, but really he's not there. And a lot of this book does focus a lot on the conversation on love and relationships and how various people in Lauren's life kind of view love and relationships differently. Everyone has a different perspective. Everyone has different things that they want and don't want. And I think that was a big part of it. So love was a big part of this book and was the focus of a lot of the conversations and themes. But I wouldn't say that it's really focusing on the romance between Lauren and Ryan, but like it is. I don't know how to explain it. I think it leans more towards like the contemporary literary fiction kind of vibe. And I think if I view it as a contemporary fiction that happens to be focusing on this main couple who are potentially getting divorced, maybe getting back together, we don't know, and that like love is a focus of it, but it's more of a contemporary, I like it more. I don't know if that makes sense, because I feel like the way I'm describing it's like, no, Lisa, that's just a romance. But no, like it's not. Like it is, but it's not. I don't know. But I did like it. I liked seeing a lot of the different side characters and different perspectives on relationships and love, and seeing how all of these characters want different things, and it's okay. There's not one right way to do relationships and marriage and love. I also think it was great to see this like conversation on like divorce necessarily isn't failure, or not finding a partner until you're older isn't failure. All of these things, it's natural, and there's just different ways of doing relationships, and I thought that that was really great and really interesting to read. And like I was saying too with this book, is that we don't see a ton of Ryan's perspective on the situation. This book is completely told through Lauren's perspective, and I don't think I necessarily want dual perspective with this type of story, because I think it would have been redundant. I think Lauren and Ryan were kind of processing the situation and thinking about this situation in a very similar way. So I didn't necessarily want a perspective from him. I just wanted like a little bit more of what he was thinking and what he was going through on his own, just because I felt like he felt pretty distant. Like this is a romance between these characters and them maybe finding their way back to each other, but I didn't really feel like I knew Ryan that well as a character. So I think that's kind of why this, just like as a romance, it's also getting so dark. Hello? I think it's about to start storming, so sorry about the lighting, but I think that's why for me, like, it being just a romance doesn't fully work, because I was invested in their relationship, but I didn't feel super invested in both of them. Like, I felt more invested in Lauren as character, which makes sense, but I think wanted a little bit more from Ryan. But because I'm not really viewing this solely as a romance, I did end up enjoying it. We are 5 for 5 of Taylor Jenkins Reid books that I've read and cried to. I actually, like, unexpectedly sobbed during this book, but I think this book talked about and touched on something that just personally always makes me very emotional and very upset. So it was just gonna happen. If that was gonna happen in a book, it's just, I'm gonna cry. That's just simple math. It is a very emotional read, but yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I had a good time, but I don't think it's necessarily a new favorite. I put it through the Compile rating system, and it came out to a 4-star, which feels right. It's a maybe like a 3.5, but I think I'm gonna give it a 4. I did enjoy it. I just really like Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. I feel like I always say her name wrong. Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. There we go. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a book that I think about a lot. Like some of her other books I thought about for like months after. Like I still think about Evelyn Hugo all the time, and I read that book in 2019. So it's like, you know, I don't think it's going to have that lasting of an impression on me, but I do think I enjoyed it enough to give it a 4-star rating. As for a Speak Now rating, my Purple Heart rating, I had to go and look back because I knew this came from the Gabby Reed's video where she was recommending books based off of individual songs off of Speak Now, and this one was recommended for Back to December. And I think as far as that goes, it's a really great recommendation for the song. I pulled up the lyrics just so I could read some out. I mean, first of all, I'm so glad you made time to see me. How's life? Tell me, how's your family? I haven't seen them in a while. They're spending a year apart from one another, so that definitely gives that kind of vibe. Because the last time you saw me is still burned in the back of your mind. And just like the whole chorus, like standing in front of you saying I'm sorry for that night, wishing I realized what I had when you were mine. These days I haven't been sleeping, staying up, playing back, myself leaving. When your birthday passed and I didn't call, that literally happens in this book. Also, like, but if we loved again, I swear I'd love you, right? I'd go back in time and change it, but I can't. So if the chain is on your door, I understand. That is like this book in a nutshell. This was the perfect recommendation for this song. So I think I'm gonna give this like 4 or 4.5 Purple Hearts, just because like this really relates to that specific song off of Speak Now, but I don't think it really captures the whole vibe. But I do think for some of the side characters and what they all want out of relationships, and the fact that there are so many different types of relationships and love stories within this book, I do think like Speak Now obviously touches on a lot of different relationships that Taylor's had. This was a very good recommendation for like a Speak Now song, and just like Speak Now in general. So I have officially started the final book for this vlog, and that is Cinderella is Dead. I'm so excited. Just like, I think I said this in the intro, but the cover by itself gives me Speak Now vibes. The purple, the dress, just like everything. The fact that it's like a fairy tale inspired retelling, I feel like could potentially be a very high Speak Now heart rating, but we'll see. So yeah, like I said, this is kind of a Cinderella retelling, but not really, because in this world, Cinderella was a real person. The story of Cinderella isn't just a story, it really happened. And in this world, there is this ball that happens every single year, and once you get to a certain age, you start attending this ball or the women start attending this ball to potentially find a suitor. It's supposed to kind of replicate the whole Cinderella meeting Prince Charming thing. However, our main character, Sophia, is really against that. She really wants to set out her own future. She doesn't want to follow these certain rules that are set for her, especially because she doesn't want to marry a man. She wants to be with her best friend Eliza. She really loves her and doesn't want to be married to someone that she doesn't even like. A lot of times these marriages are not good matches, or the people, like the men themselves, like take advantage of their wives, and it's just not a great situation. So Sophia is kind of leading up to her ball that she's going to, the first one that she's attending, and she's really not wanting to go. She really wants to back out and run away. And while she's at the ball, she kind of gets an opportunity to make that final chance at running away, and she takes it. And when she runs away from the palace, she ends up finding herself in the real Cinderella's mausoleum. And the part that I'm at right now, she gets there and she ends up running into this character named Constance, and it says in the description that Constance is actually the last known descendant of Cinderella and her stepsisters. So I think that that is really interesting. I love the idea of Cinderella being like a real person and like taking that story and making it like a historical moment, and I think that that's such an interesting take on the Cinderella story. I do love a good retelling. I do think sometimes I don't enjoy them, but I think there's so many authors that have so many ways to take a story that we all know so well and make it super unique, and I think that that's so impressive, and this is definitely a really unique story, and taking that and making it super interesting. So I'm actually on chapter 13. Taylor Swift is literally everywhere. I swear that was not planned, but that's on page 124. So I think I'm like a third of the way through the book, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I really like the characters. I really like the setup. Like I said, I really love the idea of Cinderella and Prince Charming being real people like in history, and this world like basing certain practices off of their story, but it being super dark because there's a lot of things about this ball that are not good. The king that's in power now is not a good person, and I think this whole book is going to be Constance and Sophia taking down the king and trying to change the whole ways of this kingdom. And yeah, I don't know, I'm really enjoying it so far. I will say I do feel like Constance and Sophia find each other in the mausoleum and become very trusting of one another kind of quickly. And I understand this is a standalone, a YA fantasy that like you have to kind of progress things quickly because you don't have, you know, multiple books in a series. It's not even 400 pages, so I understand things moving a little bit quickly, but it was just like, oh, you like met this one person and after like 2 minutes you're like, meet me here and this is what we're gonna do. It's like, I don't know about that. But yeah, other than that, I'm really loving it. I'm loving the representation. I'm loving the Cinderella retelling, this like reimagining aspect. I think that that's so unique. So excited to keep going. And now I'm going to stop talking because my throat really hurts. All right, it's been a couple days since my last update on Cinderella's Dead. I'm feeling much better, by the way. I feel like you can tell maybe that I sound kind of congested. I don't know if I've had a sore throat as bad as that one. So I don't know why I was filming. Also, you could tell that sick brain was happening because I called Erin Eliza. I knew her name was Erin. I don't know where the name Eliza came from. But yes, I did finish reading Cinderella is Dead. So I wanted to update you all on my final thoughts. Good news, I liked this book. Bad news, I didn't love it, especially once I read that first third and was loving it. I expected that it was just going to kind of continue on that same path. The first third, the setup of the Cinderella story and how it like influences this world and these characters, I thought was really fascinating and something that I really enjoyed throughout the whole book. Like that didn't really change. There were some really good reveals and twists, especially regarding the Cinderella tale and how that was impacting these characters that I really enjoyed. I thought it was really cool to see the influences from the original Cinderella story and also like the Disney one, but also seeing this author like take it and make it her own and make it twisted and dark in her own way. But yeah, the first third of this book I feel like was just setting this up to be something that I was going to love, and I feel like throughout the rest of the book things just kind of ended up falling a bit flat for me. The middle portion of this book kind of dragged a little bit, and then the last bit of this book was really rushed, and so I feel like there was a bit of a pacing issue. I don't know if things needed to be changed there, or maybe if this book was a little bit longer. I also, every time I say a little bit longer, I think of the Jonas Brothers. Which, to be honest, this is a Speak Now vlog. Some songs off of Speak Now are inspired by Joe Jonas. Joe Jonas actually inspired some of her best songs. Last Kiss, am I right? I'm simply just not ready for Last Kiss, Taylor's version. That is going to have me on the floor. But anyway, I think that there needed to be something changed with the pacing of this book, or if it needed to just be like 50 pages longer. I don't know. I think there was just an issue with how things were delivered. There were some really interesting reveals, and like I was saying, the world building surrounding Cinderella's tale and how that influenced like the lore and the magic system, and like it just affected all these characters so much that I wish we had gotten more of that. I feel like everything was just like brushing the surface and we didn't dig enough into everything, and I just wanted more. I feel like that's just the overall feeling I got out of this book. I think it had so much potential. There were such interesting ideas, interesting characters, interesting relationships, interesting reveals and takes on the Cinderella tale, but everything just didn't go deep enough for me. I just wanted more. I wanted more from the world. I wanted more of an explanation. I feel like with the ending being so rushed, it just felt like it was satisfying, but at the same time not really, because I don't feel like I ever fully like understood everything about this world because we just went through everything so quickly. I did really like the last like chapter of this book. I think that that was a really fun way to end the book, but I don't know, I wanted more. I feel like that's like my overwhelming feeling with this book, especially like the characters as well. I liked the characters. I liked Sophia. I liked Constance. I liked some of the other characters that maybe they ran into along the way. I found them very interesting, but I just again feel like I didn't love them because I didn't really feel super connected with them. I do like that this is a standalone. I definitely don't think this needed to be a series. I think I just wanted a little bit more from this book, because this book isn't even 400 pages long. Like, I think it could have been a little longer just to make me feel like everything was fully fleshed out and given the time that it needed, and we could have gotten, you know, everything from the story that we could have. I feel like there was so much more potential with this story, but it was still good and enjoyable. Like, I still liked the book. I feel like it makes it sound like I'm not enjoying it. I did enjoy it. I really liked everything about this book. I just think that there could have been so much more. Also, something that I noticed about all three of the books that I read, without getting into spoilers for anything, because I don't want to talk too much about this in regards to certain books, but it's interesting that all three books had varying levels of mentions of like marriage and weddings, because as far as like Speak Now goes, that is, you know, a theme in the song Speak Now. So I thought that that was interesting. This was no different, that they all had it, so I thought that that was kind of fun. But yeah, also star rating, Speak Now rating. Let's get into that. So I think for a star rating, I think I'm going to give this a 3.5 star. I once again put it through the Cawpile rating system, which I keep saying that and just expect people to know what I'm talking about. It was created by Book Roast, which is a YouTube channel. I can link the Cawpile video down below, but you just rate different things and different aspects of the book, like characters, atmosphere, writing, can I remember all of them? Plot, intrigue, logic, enjoyment. Cawpile. There we go. You rate it all in that and it gives you a star rating, and I think it came out to a 3.5, but it was like very close to being a 4-star, so I will probably round up on Goodreads, but I think it's a 3.5. Like, I enjoyed this book. I just, again, I think there was more potential to be had here. And as for a Speak Now rating, I'm actually gonna give this 5 purple hearts, because there's no reason to hold back. I'm not rating anything else on Speak Now heart rating systems in the future, so one of these books had to be 5 purple hearts, so it's this one. So the reason I'm giving this the full purple heart rating is because I feel like this really captured the vibe, but also a lot of the messages within Speak Now. It kind of captured both things, where After I Do really captured the various messages of love and relationships that Taylor talks about in Speak Now and sings about. I feel like this captures relationships and love and different types of relationships within this story, but it also has the like fantastical, whimsical fairy tale vibe as well. We do see Constance experience a few different relationships within this book, but then also like the whole Cinderella story is based off of a romance between Cinderella and Prince Charming, and we explored that relationship as well. And there's also other characters who are getting into relationships that maybe aren't okay, because that's a whole part of the world building, is that men are garbage. And the whole thing with these girls finding suitors, some of these women get put into marriages that are not good, they're not safe. So I thought it was interesting to see a variety of relationships and portrayals of love and marriage and what different people want from that in this story. But it also captured the like fantastical fairy tale, long live of it all kind of aspect. So yeah, if you're looking for a book that really captures a lot of different aspects of the Speak Now album, I would definitely recommend picking this up. I did enjoy it. I know it sounds like I mostly complained. I think it's just easier sometimes to talk about things I don't like in books versus what I did like, but I liked the characters, I liked the relationships, I liked the world, I liked the Cinderella story. I just wanted more from everything, like I've said 50 times. But those are all 3 books on my TBR for the Speak Now vlog. Also, I didn't run out of Taylor merch to wear. I just have one of my shirts is in the laundry, one is a long sleeve, it is too warm to wear that, and one of my shirts I think is also a little too small for me. So I just gave up. Considering I wasn't even wearing Taylor merch in every update anyway, I made that up because my first update I wasn't in Taylor merch. Anyway, maybe if I do this type of video again, I will do better next time. But yeah, those were all 3 books that I wanted to read for this Speak Now kind of taste test reading vlog. I honestly feel like we were relatively successful. There was only one book that I didn't enjoy and also didn't give me Speak Now vibes. But the other 2 that I read, After I Do and Cinderella is Dead, both books I enjoyed and also gave me very strong Speak Now vibes. So I definitely feel like this was really successful. It was also really fun to read these books with Speak Now in mind, because to be honest, when I'm reading most books, I kind of already sit there and go, how can I relate this book and these characters to a Taylor Swift song? I just do it naturally. So it was kind of fun to have a purpose for that and to test it out and see if we could find some books that gave some strong Speak Now vibes, and I definitely think we did. But I definitely want to do this video again, ideally with all of her albums. I think that that would be so much fun. So let me know down below in the comments what album I should do next. Also, this video is being posted the day Speak Now Taylor's version is released, and I would love to know if you've made it this far into the video, what your favorite track off of Speak Now is. It could be the original version, but I would also love to know like what your favorite vault track is, because those are the songs that we've never heard before. Obviously right now I can't tell you my favorites because Speak Now Taylor's version isn't out when I'm filming this outro, but I can tell you that I'm the most excited to hear Castles Crumbling and When Emma Falls in Love. I'm so excited for those 2 songs, but I'm excited to hear all of them, and just like also the re-recorded versions of all of these Speak Now songs. Like I said in my last update, so excited for Last Kiss. Also, if you're just watching this video and you're not really a Swiftie, you don't have answers to those questions, but you made it to the end of the video, first of all, thank you, but feel free to leave a purple heart emoji down below in the comments. But I think that that is going to be it for this Speak Now reading vlog, so thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.